past 6 years, I've done well over $10 million in business in my own concrete company, and from that, I've learned a lot of things that are good and a lot of things that are really bad. And so in this video, I'm gonna share the 5 most common mistakes that I see concrete contractors make in their business and what I made in my own business so that you can improve your sales. The very first one that I wanted to get into, I wanna illustrate with a story. So when I actually first started in concrete and in sales, I knew nothing about concrete. So I actually came from marketing. I came from more of like a corporate job, an office job, and I partnered up with my father-in-law, who's a great concrete person, but wasn't also a great salesperson in his own right. And so when I first started going out to concrete jobs, I actually sold a ton of people. And I went out there, I knew nothing about concrete, and I was basically just collecting checks. I would go out there, people would ask questions, I would give them pretty basic answers, and they would give me money. So I was like, wow, this is actually pretty dang easy. And I thought I was a great salesperson. But then what was funny is over time, I had the itch. I wanted to learn more about the product that I was selling. I wanted to learn more about concrete. So all of a sudden I was learning more about PSI and base and rebar and tension strength and fiber and the different levels of prep that you can do and just all the crazy things that us as concrete contractors that we learn over time or that you probably already know. And then what I noticed actually is my sales started to go down. And I started to have a panic moment. I was like, oh my God, is this the economy? Is it the way that I look? Like, what the heck happened? And so I called the sales coach and I kind of talked him through everything that was happening. I was like, well, I don't get it. I used to be so good at sales. And it was funny because what he told me is he's like, hey, well, Tyler, I don't know this 100%, but because you were doing really good and now you're not, he's like, are you sure you're not doing technobabble? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, when someone asks you a question, like, are you just answering the question or are you like telling them every single little detail that you know about concrete? And I kind of thought about it. And in my sales processes over time, what I had changed, what I noticed tons of people do is you get really good at your craft and all you want to do is tell people everything you know. And so because you think it makes you sound good. Because if someone says, like when I first started, someone says, hi, is my driveway going to be strong enough to hold my car? I'd just say, oh yeah, of course. And then I would move on. Like that would be it. But then after a while, once I learned about it, they would say, hey, is my driveway strong enough to hold my car? I said, oh yes, we do 4 inches of concrete, we do 4,500 PSI, versus our competitors only do 3,500, we do 2 inches of base, we do blah, blah, blah. And I basically barfed all over them. And then if I can give this to you in an example, is you ever go to a party and there's like that one person and they think that they're like really cool, but they just talk all the time, but secretly behind their back, everyone's like, oh my God, like, can we just not invite this guy next time? Because he's like super annoying. If you do this to your customers and all you do is talk about all the things that you know and that you care about, you will lose sales. And so that happened to me, don't let it happen to you. All right, number 2 is they overcomplicate things. So let me give an example here. I actually just recently, I had a blinds guy come over and I was doing blinds at my house and I just don't really have time to do it myself. And he did everything right, except for this thing right here. And it ended up me hiring someone else because I just couldn't stand working with him. I called him on a Sunday morning. I was expecting just to leave a voicemail and for him to call me back the next day. And he actually answered the phone. He drove out to my house that Sunday and he gets out, he takes measurements, he gives a price and everything lined up. My wife was on board, I was on board, we were ready to write a check, except I kept saying one last thing. I was like, man, I just can't select the color. And I was like, you know, you do blinds, will you just like tell me some colors you recommend? And what he did is he gave me this big book of all these colors. I mean, and like, you know, I'm a guy, you're probably a guy if you're watching this too. And us guys, we think in like a box of crayons, right? Like I've got like 12 colors that I can like comprehend. Everything else doesn't make sense to me. And I kept asking him over and over. I was like, dude, I just want this to look good. I want it to look modern, blah, blah, blah. My wife is the same way. It's like, what should we do? And he refused to help us. And it wasn't because he was bad or doing things wrong. He just wanted us to have a product that we liked. But because he kept things overcomplicated, it actually caused us to look elsewhere. And the funny thing is, I didn't even plan to look elsewhere. Basically what he did is like, I'm gonna leave you my color book and you guys just call me like tomorrow and then we'll get things going. But like the more and more that my wife looked at it, we were so overwhelmed with all the options that I could not make a decision. Like ever go to like a Mexican restaurant and you see that they've got like 100 options on the menu and you feel very complicated or you feel very overwhelmed, well, you don't want to do that with your clients either. So just like the way the Chick-fil-A is now one of the largest fast food restaurants, it's not like they're like, hey, I'm gonna sell chicken and I'm gonna sell burgers and I'm gonna sell all these things. They're like, no, we're just really good at chicken. That's all we do. And so the thing is, if you wanna crush it in sales, then you wanna undercomplicate things, make things very simple, do a very limited amount of things, but do them really, really well and make it simple on your customers. Hey guys, really fast, I just wanna interject in this video and let you know that I have a free training down below on the 7 steps that I take people through on how to scale their concrete business. So if it's something that you're interested in scaling your business, definitely take a look down below, click on the link, enter your email, get the training for free. Number 3 is being too rigid. And to demonstrate this, I wanna show you guys an actual email chain and an actual email series where I sold a customer a $20,000 concrete project over email. And so the reason why I wanna bring this up is I notice so many people, when they find a method that works, they want all of their customers to cram into one itty bitty way to work with them. They say, oh no, if you work with me, you gotta call me and then I gotta come out and I gotta do this and blah, 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 blah. And they have this crazy process. And the thing is, for people who don't fit into that process, it makes them wanna go elsewhere. And so let me demonstrate this. He sent me an email and he was asking how much that we charge per square foot. We all know as concrete contractors how annoying that is. So you guys can see my response. I said, well, what we could do is some of our walkways are $8 a square foot and some of them are $35 a square foot. And I was like, can you define the scope of work? And then we went a little bit further. And he said, thanks for the response. And he's like, hey, what I'm actually looking for is 75 feet of walkway. Here's some pictures. And then I said, awesome, thanks so much for sending. And he was requesting for this flagstone we put in concrete. And by the way, in the moment, I actually thought that was a terrible idea, but I was trying to keep things simple. Again, not overcomplicating things. And I said, cool, well, thanks for sending that over. Assuming all these different things, I said, we are looking at about $8,800. I was like, but if you want to refine this, then let's meet in person. And so then I went out in person and as you guys can tell, my email said $8,800, but here are the actual 2 different contracts that he signed. One was the original and one was a change order because he wanted even more work while we were on the job site. But the point is, I kept things nice and simple and easy for him because he wanted to buy via email. And so I sold him via email. And so again, if you want to sell people, you got to be willing to communicate on their terms, at their time, their medium of communication, whether it's text, phone call, email. Like, I don't care if someone mailed me and they wanted me to mail them a response back. I would, because I know how important it is for people. I want my customer to feel comfortable. I don't want me to feel comfortable. So I'm gonna be willing to bend for my customer, not the other way around. I don't want my customer to bend for me. Number 4 is having a product versus having an offer. And I want to tell you guys this through an example that I just had recently. I was actually working with someone, they just wanted a very, very simple patio. And I was asking them, one of the questions that I ask and that I teach my coaching clients inside of our coaching program here at Contractor CEO is very basic questions that we ask every single customer because it's meant to draw out pains. But the one question that I asked him, and this was the one that really helped me close the sale, was I said, hey, have you ever done any work like this before? And he's like, well, you know, actually, as a matter of fact, I haven't, but my dad has. I said, oh, interesting. I was like, well, tell me about that. Why didn't you call that guy? He's like, honestly, that company was terrible. And again, I peeled back the onion. I didn't just say, oh, they're terrible. And I didn't just jump in and again, just spill on myself. Oh, let me tell you all these reasons why I'm not terrible. No, I didn't do that. I was like, well, what do you mean? Why were they terrible? And he's like, well, honestly, the patio turned out really good, but the frustrating part was the cleanup. Oh, like the cleanup, like how so? They just didn't like pick up the forms? He's like, yeah, kinda. He's like, they poured the patio and there was concrete splatters all over my house. And on top of that, they took forever to come back and pick up the forms. And I noticed like it took them literally weeks to pick up the job site. And he's like, the sad part is the job actually turned out good, but he's like, I just know that if I hired them at my house and they left a mess at my house, my wife would kill me. He's like, I could not go through that same thing even though their product was really good. And so this is what I mean by product versus an offer. Now that I had all of the information, I said, well, let me tell you what, customer. I was like, what would it do for you if I put in the contract, like into our agreement together, that I'm gonna give you the price of the patio, and on top of that, I will promise that we will, 1, cover all of your house with plastic, all the columns, everything's gonna be covered in plastic, and within 24 hours of pouring your concrete job, I will have every single form, every single speck of concrete cleaned up, all the plastic gone. It will be left spotless within 24 hours after the pour. I was like, would that mean anything to you? And he's like, oh my God, if you could give me my patio and that, like, and that's in writing, he's like, dude, I don't even care how much it costs. Like, you've got the job because I know you do great work. And I won the job all because of that. And so when I'm teaching sales to our estimators, our sales team, or when I'm using it on my own behalf in our concrete company, I'm always trying to think, okay, someone's buying a patio, but what are all the other ancillary things that matter to them? Is it the cleanliness? Is it the durability? Is it the service? Is it the whatever it is? An offer is simply just combining the product, AKA patio, plus other thing. Now all of a sudden I have an offer because I have patio plus other thing equals offer. So if you want to sell more jobs, think about all the creative ways that you can make creative offers to your clients, where even if it's your same process, you're gonna look way more valuable than your competition because you actually listened and gave the customer what they actually wanted. And number 5 is to control your emotions. And so how many times have we gotten we went out, we've done an estimate for a customer, and then they send an email back, they say, oh, thanks so much, but hey, can you break down the cost of the estimate? And the first time that happens to you, you're probably not that annoyed, but after that happens to you like 50 times, all I really want to do is say the cost to do the job is $10,000, the cost not to do the job is $0, and if you don't like that, you could basically F off. But the thing is, how many sales do you think that I would make if I said something like that? And the thing is, I know most of you would never actually say something like that, but a lot of people, they do get a little bit stark in their comments, or they think that we're better than our customers, and we get annoyed. We let our emotions win. And the thing about being in business is we have to realize that we've been through something 1,000 times, but our customer really hasn't. So we shouldn't be getting annoyed or frustrated or mad. And if we can control our emotions when some of this stuff comes up, I mean, the goal is that we can always just be as helpful as possible. It doesn't mean that you have to break down your bid. It just means that they just need a little bit more education. Like, for instance, if someone asks that to me now, I very politely, and again, it's not always what you say, it's how you say it. Because if I said this differently, right, and my tone didn't come across correctly because I let my emotions win, it can sound kind of conceited and like you're an asshole, but that's not the goal, right? So I would say something more like, oh, Tyler, can you break down the bid? Sure, yeah. So on our average job, let's just say if it's a $10,000 driveway, on our average job, about 40% of that goes to labor, about 40% goes to materials, and about 20% is left over for the business so we can do things like operate our trucks, our equipment, gas, etc. And then by the end of the year, we typically have about an 8% profit margin. So on this job, I can't break down every single cost for you associated with your project, but that's about how it typically breaks down over the course of the year. Does that make sense? And then again, I'm being helpful for them while being vague, and I'm not letting my pissed off emotion of how annoyed I am that I have to freaking walk someone through this again. I'm not letting that get the best of me. I'm just trying to do what's best for the customer. I'm trying to be their friend above all else, because here's the thing. A lot of people, I actually just had to let go of my salesperson at my concrete company. And one of the things that I realized was a really big difference between him and me, and also because I'm the owner, so it's a little bit different, but I have people that call me back to work with me all the time. Like my previous customers, I actually just sold a $120,000 project. Like the guy literally saved my cell phone and he didn't call the company back, he called me. He said, hey Tyler, I have like this big warehouse I wanna build, and he called me back. And I was trying to sit there and think, I'm like, well, why are people calling me back, but not the salesperson that I had at my company for the past 2 years? Like that doesn't seem to happen very much. And what I realized is people will never remember what happened with a company, but they will always remember how that company made them feel. And one of the things that I've always done really well with my customers, and what I see other people don't do so well with, is because I control my emotions. And I'm always positive, right? When I answer the phone, I'm like, well, not like, hello, this is Tyler. Like, no, like I'm excited to talk to my customers, and they remember how it made them feel. So whenever they get a chance to either recommend me or use me again, then it makes them want to buy from me over and over again. And that's all how we talk to people, with tone and emotion. That's it for this video, but if you like this video, you're gonna love this video right here. That's what YouTube recommends, so make sure you click on this next, and I'll see you there.